moderate this session. Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and the honorable keynote speakers, welcome to this seminar on early childhood education. And thank you for being here. And I'm Franciscus Jamadi, very happy and acted as the moderator of this session. Before we are going to start this session, let me inform you some points that we need to undergo when we are going to have this presentation. First, we are going to have a presentations of our keynote speakers, and then the second will be questions and answer session. And for all the participants, make sure that while listening to the presentations of our keynote speakers, you can make use of the chat box to chat questions, raise some questions to the presenters. You may raise them in Bahasa Indonesia or in English. If you are going to raise them in Bahasa Indonesia, and I'm going to translate it into English so that our speakers would understand your questions. Okay. Next, once again, we are going to go to the first session, presentation of our first keynote speaker, Dr. Michelle Huggins.
Thank you. I hope you can see this. So selamat sore semuanya.
Selamat sore.
Selamat datang di perpustakaan rumah saya di Belanda. Now, as you hear, my pronunciation of Bahasa Indonesia is very bad. So I hope you don't mind if I switch into English. I'm honored to be here today, and I will give a lecture to you, a small talk to you about playful teaching and learning in early childhood education. I've been teaching in elementary schools for quite some years, and I'm also teaching at the Hague University of Applied Sciences at the Teacher Education Department, as well at the Rotterdam University of the Arts, where I teach music education. Let me see. Hey, oh yeah, sorry, something went. No, here. So I want to talk about play as a meaningful vehicle for development of young children. And I can talk a lot about, I can talk hours about this topic, but I thought maybe it would be wise to start with a video, because as you might agree, is that a picture says more than 1,000 words, and a video maybe even says more. I have to switch to YouTube, and I hope the translation will work as well. It's a 5-minute video, but I think it will be very informative for the topic we're talking about. And I have to switch to the other mode, and that's the video, and that's this one. Can you see the video? I think so.
Wij werken nu over verhuizen. Ons thema heet Wij gaan verhuizen. Ja, heel goed. En wie komen, Russel, weet jij wie er vanmiddag op bezoek komen? 2 verhuismannen en een echte verhuiswagen. En dan hebben wij al vragen gemaakt voor de verhuizers. Ja? En dat hebben we allemaal opgeschreven. Maar ik wil eens even kijken of jullie nog weten wat die vragen waren.
Hoe komt de bank tussen de deur door?
Ja, want de bank is groter dan de deur, dus hoe kan nou een bank door de deur? Ontwikkelingsgericht onderwijs draait voornamelijk om de thema's. Die zijn eigenlijk het allerbelangrijkste. We werken nu over het thema verhuizen. Wij gaan verhuizen. Het moet een pakkend thema zijn met een werkwoord erin, zeggen we er altijd, zodat we erover kunnen werken. We werken een bepaalde periode aan het thema. Dat zijn meestal 8 weken, 7, 8 weken. Dus dat is eigenlijk wel een hele lange periode, zodat we echt heel diep op de thema's in kunnen gaan.
Er staat eigenlijk op dozen volgedrukt. Dat staan alle dozen, breekbaar.
Wie weet nog van mijn groep, hoe heet die klep ook alweer? Die omhoog gaat. Hoe heet die, Sarissa? Een lift of een
Laadklep.
Een laadklep, ja. Kunnen wij met de kinderen af en toe een paar keer op de lift naar boven?
Dat kan.
Hey, we gaan vandaag beginnen met de kring. We gaan verder met onze eigen dierentuin. En nu moeten we eens gaan kijken, hey, hoe gaan we onze dierentuin nou eigenlijk indelen? Wat gaan we waarmaken? Welke dieren moeten er eigenlijk sowieso in komen? Want dat is wel even belangrijk om te weten. Welke dieren hebben wij allemaal?
Olifant.
De olifant moeten we niet vergeten.
Tijger.
Tijger hebben we. Oh, we hebben nu het thema dierentuin. De dieren die we hebben. Ja, daarbij willen we gewoon onze eigen dierentuin maken. Dus we oefenen met bouwen, we hebben een souvenirswinkel, we gaan een dierentuin bezoeken. We doen onderzoek naar dieren die in de dierentuin wonen.
Wat wilt u kopen? 2 euro.
Als spel hebben we nu het rollenspel. Dus dan hebben we nu een winkel, maar waarbij ook het belangrijk is dat ze echt dingen gaan uitrekenen, bonnetjes gaan schrijven, dat ze gesprekken aangaan met klanten.
De basisvaardigheden van de kinderen, zoals het lezen, schrijven of rekenen, komen eigenlijk spelenderwijs aan bod. Dus we proberen het zo echt mogelijk te maken, dus ook het lezen en schrijven zo echt mogelijk in het spel te verweven.
Door wie ben ik geholpen? Schrijf je naam maar. Door Levi. Dankjewel, mag ik er al mee? Ja. Jij er ook in? Bon erin. En dan kunnen wij eten koken. Dag meneer van de winkel. Mees, weet jij al wat jij wil spelen? Wie wil jij zijn? Jij bent de broer, dus dan doe je de broerketting om. En Noora, wie ben jij? We hebben 2 mama's, helemaal goed. Dan ben ik de verhuizer.
Ik speel voornamelijk mee omdat ik heel goed wil weten waar de kinderen mee bezig zijn en wat ze doen en hoe ver ze zijn in hun ontwikkeling. Sommige kleuters zijn alleen nog maar bezig met dingen in elkaar aan het stoppen. Sommige kinderen kunnen al helemaal een rol op zich nemen, bijvoorbeeld een moeder. En die kunnen dat een hele tijd volhouden. Dus die zijn al verder in hun ontwikkeling.
Maar dat moet er bovenin zijn. Die gaat mee.
Past die in de verhuisdoos?
Nee, dat zou aan.
Zeg maar, grote broer, mocht dat van mama? Mocht je zomaar het fornuis pakken?
Nee.
Nee, mama en papa zeggen nee, dus zet het maar weer terug. Anders hebben die straks geen plekje. Ja, in de klas observeer ik de kinderen heel goed, waardoor je dan weet waar ze zitten. En je wilt ze eigenlijk gewoon steeds een stapje verder helpen. Dus ja, steeds zelfstandiger. Dus van heel veel voordoen, samen doen naar echt zelfstandig. Weet je wat we even gaan schrijven? We gaan er even bij schrijven. Dus de vraag, hè, van waar woont de olifant? Gaan we even met waar beginnen? Wil je nog een
Ik heb er iets te lang gedaan.
Geef niks.
Dus kinderen vinden het heel erg leuk om op deze manier te werken, want het thema is van hun en het groeit met hun.
I will stop sharing, or I have to go to my other presentation. I don't know if the translation is correct. I'm sorry, I'm not able to check that. But like I said, a picture says more than 1,000 words. It gives an impression how you can work in elementary school, and the children in the video you saw here were 5 years old, about 5 years old, some a little older, some a little younger. Maybe it's good to look at our educational system just for a second. What you see is that children from 0 till 4, they can go to preschool. It's not compulsory. Parents might want the children to go there. Also, it's also kind of daycare. Children at the age of 4 years old, 99% of them, they go to elementary or primary school. Although elementary school education in the Netherlands is compulsory from 5 years old. So when you're 5 years old, you have to go to school. And now, but like I said, 99% of the children go to school at 4, and elementary school takes 8 years. Used to be we had kindergarten and elementary school. Nowadays it's just one school, because we want to have one developmental line from 4 till 12, and then children go to secondary school. That takes, it depends on the level of education, 4, 5 or 6 years, and then they can go to university or vocational education. Although the names might be different from Indonesian words or the Indonesian terms, it's quite similar to your system of education, I think. If I'm wrong, please say so. My computer don't want to go next slides. Okay, now what we see, what's important for young children to develop. So we're talking about child development today. So what kind of child development are we talking about? Now, one, motor development. We see that young children are not always able to hold a pencil or to use scissors. So that's things they have to learn. They also have to, they have to learn many things, to climb into things. They have to run, to walk on one leg, to make sure they are right or left-handed. But we're also talking about cognitive development. Maybe you can say that in the early years, the children make, they all have, of course, a huge potential, but they make the strongest progress aspect of cognitive development is the language acquisition. And nowadays we have many discussions about language acquisition in the Netherlands, because we have many immigrant children. So do you want children to all speak Dutch, or like in your case, Indonesian, or do you want to let them use their own mother tongue as well? We have also dialects, or maybe, I'm sure you have that as well. If you use many languages in your classroom, we call this translanguaging. So the children learn not only by using, in our case, the Dutch language, but also by using their mother tongues. We're also talking about social development. But how are we doing this, and why are we doing this? A Dutch education philosopher, Gert Biesta, says in the Netherlands we focus too much on the qualification of children, of people. So you have to learn how to write, how to do arithmetic, how to read. You have to know many things in order to be successful in life, in order to go to a high level of education. But that's not the only thing we should focus on in education, because education is also about socialization. People have to learn with each other. And that maybe have become more and more complex. Now the world gets more complex, and we have more difficult nationalities in the classroom, but they have to socialize. How do we want children to cooperate with each other? Those are all very important aspects of education. But also what he called subjectification is children have to become an identity. So they have to become more autonomous and independent in their thinking, in their acting. The question is, that's on this slide, is this something different from socialization? I don't think so, because you and I are different, but we live together in a community of learners in this case, and we have to work together, but you are different from me, and it's all important. So if you want to have a well-balanced educational design, you should pay attention to aspects of qualification, socialization, as well as subjectification. Sorry, as you hear, English is not my first language, so I'm struggling with the words as well. I often work from, that's also what you have seen in the video I showed. We call this a cultural historical approach. It's the cultural historical activity theory. And what is nice in this theory is that education is always a step ahead of development of students. And students can be 5-year-olds, can be 4-year-olds, but can also be 60-year-olds. That means if you want to have this education, if you want to work like you saw in the video, you have to have strong opinions, strong ideas about what children should get and how they receive their knowledge and their thinking, their attitudes and their skills. And I want to show how we do this. Within this concept, we have 4 of 5 main concepts. One is that if you want to, and that's what I like a lot about this video, you see the children were really engaged in the activities they participated in. And that was because teachers created meaningful activities. And a meaningful activity for me doesn't have to be meaningful for you, and vice versa. Even within your own classroom or in your own community, things are meaningful for one person, but not always meaningful for the other. So you have to observe children, what they like, where they are in their development. And we also like to work in their zone of proximal development. And to explain this, I will show you my next slide. You see here, at this moment, you and I, we are able to do things, we know certain things, and we call this our zone of actual development. So we can do things independently. We are what we can do what we can do now. This is the zone of actual development. If you want children to learn, you can stay within this zone of actual development, but they do all the things they can do already, and certainly they will grow, they will develop, because development also happens over time. But you want maybe to speed up this a little bit, and that means that you have to offer children tasks that are slightly more difficult than they can do themselves, and we call this the zone of proximal development. But you don't only offer them tasks that they can't do, that are a little bit difficult, more difficult than they can do themselves now. You offer tasks that they have to do with another more knowledgeable person. That can be a child that is a little further in his or her development, or maybe a teacher. If you offer tasks or activities that are too difficult, children won't learn anything, because it's just beyond their developmental abilities. So we like to offer a slightly difficult activities, and children can participate in these activities in their own personal ways. And we call this is a psychological term, agency. So agency refers to the context specific. Sorry, I'm talking too fast, I think. Agency refers to, oh, what's happening here? This is not what I want. I want to go back. Oh, let me stop sharing and do it again. I'm sorry. Something goes wrong. My presentation does what it wants itself. That's sort of not what I want. And now I have to put it on this mouse. No, still not good. Yeah, here we are. So agency refers to the context-specific capacity of to participate in specific cultural practices in a skillful, responsible, and critical and personal way. And cultural practices are activities that you and I do in our adult life, and you always see that children like to copy, like to play like adults do. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening. So we're focusing on play, and play is a way for children to learn and to develop. And you can see this in the boy in the top. It's a child with Down syndrome playing with his truck. But you can also play Angklung, for example. And actually, I've been to Indonesia before and bought the angklungs, and I do this with children and with my students at the university, and they like to play this instrument. So the question is this the same kind of play? We'll come back to that later. I have quoted here some expressions and definitions of play. You see that Bert van Oer said in 2012 that through play the child exercises the functions that he will need in his further life. So it's a way of practicing. But you also see, and that's what Erikson has been talking about, that children use play to cope with difficult situations. So they play, they repeat what they have been experiencing, and they do it with very nice experiences, but also with the difficult ones. There we go again. You also can see that play is a reflection of the reality and is therefore strongly determined by the prevailing culture. So play in a child playing in the city center of Amsterdam might be playing different things, I should say, from children who live in the Dutch countryside. I can imagine that Flores is way different from a city as Jakarta, where maybe live more people than on the whole island of Flores. So there are other opportunities and children have other experiences. You see also that I assume that you heard about Piaget and the stages of cognitive development. You see that in play, in what stage children are, although this theory is sometimes discussed as well, because you can think if development goes in stages or has a more fluid way of thinking, of progressing. Children progress, but they also fall back sometimes to earlier stages. And what I like also a lot is Langeveld's expression that play is the most essential activity of a safe child in the world that can turn out to be anything. So they can play about anything, and it's very important, says Langeveld, for their personal development. I always, no, not always, but I work from the Vygotskian approach. I don't know if you've heard of Lev Vygotsky. He is a Russian psychologist, and he says in play, a child always behaves beyond his average age. That's what I was talking about with this zone of proximal development. Above his daily behavior. In play, it is as though he were a head taller than himself. In the focus of the magnifying glass, play contains all developmental tendencies in a condensed form and in itself a major source of development. Vygotsky says we in the Netherlands always talk about free play and children, yeah, they play and like it's not important, but Vygotsky says there is not such thing as free play, because children, they rehearse all the things they see in adult life. And I come back to that. Then you see, if you look at the characteristics of play, that play always has rules. So children, they play, for example, going to a shop, or like the movers you saw, and there are always rules, because in a shop you behave in a certain way, you say something to the lady behind the counter, or the lady behind the counter says certain things to the customer. So those are all rules you have. They use tools, they have regulations, but if it's all very strict, it's an assignment, and play is not like that. So you need a certain degree of freedom. And if you can make activities, organize activities in such a way, you see that it will lead to intense experience of young children, like you see the boys here in this picture. So for me, play is a key activity, is a central activity in early childhood development. Now, what I'd like to do, but unfortunately, it's a little too difficult to do it online, is to have a discussion with you about what elements of this such a rich learning environment do you have in your own classrooms. I think I should come to Flores and to have that discussion face to face with you. And I hope it will be possible. For example, the two children at this the actual needle, but only the plastical thing, but they are wearing the face masks in the time when no one was wearing them in the Netherlands, unless you were working in a hospital. And they're doing role play, and you can see that there will be tools, there are procedures, but in order to give a medication, for example, to a person or an animal, you have to count. So how many pills do you give the giraffe? And so that are all things that children can talk about, can learn about in this activity. So we see in the Netherlands, we use 5 key elements: play, like I've been talking about so far, but also about construction activities, and I will show you some later. Conversation activities, because language acquisition is very, very important in early childhood education, as it is in further life, but also reading and writing activities, as well as arithmetics and math activities. And we do this in the Netherlands in what we call the speelwerkles. It's a playful learning environment where we start in sitting in a circle, having a discussion, do activities where children can read and write, where they can count, for example. But after a small circle activity of about 10-15 minutes, the children go to all kinds of corners in the room, do and work them by themselves. And I will give you the 5 key activities. But before we do that, I want to make clear that we set goals for these activities. It's not just that the children can do as they like. Yeah, they can do as they like, but we have a purpose with what we do. And if you look in the center of this model, you see 3 words in the red part, and it's called it's emotional freedom, being curious, and having self-esteem. So in all these activities, we want children to be emotional free, we want them to be curious, and we want them to feel, yeah, you can also use the word competent. Oh, there it goes again. If you look at the bluish outside words, they are there are words using words or tools, techniques. So those are specific knowledge and skills. But you also want to focus about things like cooperation or creativity. We call this broad personal development. Now, and due to time, because I think I talk too much and too long, I want to see a few examples of these 5 key activities. Now, the first one, very nice picture, if you ask me, a child doing role play. She's pouring tea in a teacup, or it's something else, I don't know. You have to make sure, you have to be aware there is a difference between boys and girls. Boys like to play activities like these, but you can also think about, can we make this the fire, maybe a firefighter, or can we play like being in a hospital? So those are not very girl or boy oriented activities. But like I said, we like also to do small circle activities focusing on conversation with children. You can discuss all kinds of things. You can have maybe even with 5-year-olds philosophical activity conversations. We also have corners in which I see there is a hand. Can we do it in 2 minutes? Then I'm finished with my presentation. You can also have construction activities, which are arithmetic activities in itself as well, because in order to build such a probably boat, you have to measure things, and you need geometry. And of course, we like to read picture books with children. We like to play about picture books with children. We like to stamp certain words that belong to a certain theme, and those are reading and writing activities. And like I said in the past, arithmetics and mathematics are on a very small scale also important in this at this stage. Now, what I liked, and that's my last slide, what I like to focus on with my children is to create playful and meaningful activities for them, preferably social cultural activities, so activities they can see in the life around them, activities in which all children can and want to participate in order to explore and develop their talents, because all children have a huge potential to develop themselves, but we as educators, we have to make sure that they are able to do this. And with that, I have come to an end, and I hope we can have a small discussion about maybe what I want to say, or maybe things you want to bring to the table. I will stop sharing so we can see each other. So thank you so much. Father Franciscus, you're going to moderate,
okay.
I think.
Thank you, Dr. Higgins, for sharing your insights. Okay. Once again, I'd like to inform to all the participants. Okay. Let me share in Bahasa Indonesia, Dr. Sorry for say it in Bahasa Indonesia. Kalau ada pertanyaan untuk presenter pertama, para partisipan dipersilakan untuk menggunakan chat box atau langsung gitu. Nanti saya akan tanyakan ke presenternya dengan menggunakan bahasa Inggris. Okay, I opened for discussion. Okay, we have here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the first question, Dr. Michelle.
Yes.
Okay. This question is from Theresia Alpiani. Her question is related to the facilities and infrastructure which are not really supporting for early childhood learning. Okay, and institutions have various facilities. Some even have no supporting facilities at all, which then has impact on play or activities that are not optimal. According to Dr. Michel, if it is associated with a situation like this, what can the teacher do so that playing activities continue to be fun and stimulate all aspects of development in children? Most probably the question is some schools or some institutions have not provided good facilities for children to play, and then the question is what teachers can do when they happen to meet such kind of situations in their schools.
Yeah, I understand the question, and the examples I show today are, of course, the examples that have very rich learning environments for young children, at least what I consider a rich learning environment, because we can also have a discussion about that. It starts with the question, do you think that play is important for you and for the development of the children you work with? If you agree with me on that, then the next step is how can we enrich the learning environments of young children? So it could be that you have your normal learning activities because you all teach at schools, and children have been active in participating in these schools for years. So it has not been bad so far, but maybe you can enrich it, for example, by thinking, okay, maybe we should take some time to save some time in my curriculum for children to play, and make a corner in your classroom in which children can have some role play, for example. And sometimes you can use the corridor in the school to do that. And you don't always have to have many materials. And what I see a lot, what I have done in the past as well, is that I bring some materials from home to school, and then I save it. And next year I do the same theme again, or the same topic again, and I add some new materials to it, so you can make things grow. You can also think about the reading and writing materials. How do I offer these activities to children? Is it in a very scholastic way, or is it a playful way? And if it's a very scholastic way, maybe what can I do to do, for example, arithmetic games, or how can I make it a little bit more playful, or so I don't think you have to you don't have to work at a very rich school in order to have all these materials, but you have to make it grow, and it starts with a mindset that says, okay, play is an essential activity in early childhood education, and let's work together with that. And that would be, by the way, a very nice thing to work to collaborate with the Dutch and the Indonesian about how can we organize, for example, reading and writing activities in a playful way, or how can we, so maybe we can make a community of learners together. I don't know if my answer is sufficient. But not all Dutch schools are like I showed you this morning.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Misser. Hopefully, Ms. Thersia Alfiani got the answer. Okay, so starting from changing the mindset. Okay, the limited facilities would not prohibit us to think that the play is really essential or part of childhood development. Okay. And then
I see Indonesian questions. I can't read.
Okay. And then the second question is, I'll pick up. Okay, I'll pick up one question from Delciana. Okay. Her question is about how to improve students' interest in reading, okay, specifically during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, that's a very important question, because we like to have children be able to read and write. The question is, what age do you want to have children read and write? In the Netherlands, we offer, you can read for children. And we do that a lot. We have many picture books, and I know you have them in Indonesia as well. And we use them in with the 4 and 5 year olds, and with the 6 year olds. From 6 year on, we start. Children really need to learn reading and writing. And how do you do that? It would be nice to have a collection of books, and it would be even nicer if you have a collection of books on the topic you're working on. For example, when you're working about the construction site, it's nice to have a book about building houses, etc. And sometimes, I don't know if that's the same in Indonesia, in the libraries provide service to collect books for you can use in your classrooms. But you can also make a table where children play as they have been reading in pictures books. So can Sister Agustina say what age she's talking about? Would that be able? Can you set a number in the chat?
Okay, most probably it's a play group. Okay, for age 3 to 5 years.
Okay, that's the very young ones. Yeah, we have many picture books we like to read for children. We also have these. Then we now used to be we made cassettes, and nowadays we do it on telephones, etc. That children can listen to a story and then look in the picture book themselves. We play a lot about the books, and what not the 3-year-olds but the 5-year-olds do as well is they stamp the letters and they make words that are very important for them in a book. Yeah, I think I'm not clear enough, but do you have some ideas?
Okay, see, Delsiana, halo Delsiana. Okay, halo Delsiana. Okay, Delsiana dari let me translate it into bahasa Indonesia, Dr. Michelle. Yeah. Give me a time for translating it. Okay, dari jawabannya tadi itu adalah bagaimana kita sebagai guru itu menyiapkan buku bergambar gitu untuk melatih minat anak-anak membaca, atau juga dalam bentuk permainan yang lain seperti stepping up on letters, ya, bermain angka-angka gitu, permainan. Jadi huruf-hurufnya itu diletakkan di lantai, lalu anak-anak itu juga dilatih untuk loncat dari satu huruf ke huruf lain untuk membentuk sebuah kata. Mungkin dengan cara seperti itu bisa meningkatkan atau menimbulkan minat baca anak-anak saat masa pandemi ini. Gitu. Dan juga sekarang itu ada juga buku yang electronic books gitu, buku elektronik yang lengkap dengan audionya, cerita, lalu bisa anak-anak itu bisa dengarkan itu, sehingga saat dia membaca juga dia juga menikmati cerita itu melalui audio yang dia dengarkan. Begitu si Delsiana. Ada lagi, mungkin this is the last question. And okay. Okay, I'd like to read the question from Franciscus de Gomez. Okay. I agree that learning for early childhood should be based on playing activities. For diverse contexts of Indonesian culture, there are games from other cultures suitable to stimulate children's development in other cultures' context. What is the impact on the information of children's character according to their original culture?
Yeah, I don't know about scientific research about that, but I think, and I'm doing a study in Malaysia about identity formation with secondary school students, but we see there that it's very important to pay attention to cultural diversity. Children are very proud of their own cultures and should be proud of their own cultures, because I think that's also a very rich learning environment. And what I've been talking about today is about that it's very important to have meaningful activities. So and it's meaningful if you recognize things, if your own culture is recognized as well, and you don't always have to do things that only belong to the majority of of the people in the classroom. And I think it's very important, like I said also in the beginning, for the socialization process, to really get to know each other and respect each other's cultures. So it's meaningful for if you play in your own culture, but it's very rich and powerful for the other children to learn about other cultures as well. In the end, we all have to live with each other and cooperate with each other and make the best of life with each other, apart from the culture we originally come from.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle. Okay. Okay. Let me okay. Can I have another question?